All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Odimaya. Welcome to Mental Health Savage. This is the first of the first video, and I have, you know, she actually gave me this idea, and then and it was very, 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 very fantastic, like visual podcasts. So this year is going to be a lot of this. So, I'd like our guest to introduce herself. Please keep in mind that throughout the entirety of this podcast, video podcast, like please keep your mind open. At the end of the day, all we want is for everyone to reach a state of enlightenment. There are a lot of people who are existing and not living, right? It is time to just take charge of the free will that has been given and be intentional about your life. And that includes healing. So I'll have Nettie introduce herself.
Hi, Dr. Tammy. My name is Antoinette Njombua-Fombad. I go by Nettie, obviously, and I am a nurse, a registered nurse. I am a writer. Recently, for the book "Everything Is Within," that's actually coming out in February. It will be launched in February 11th of this year, and
Yes.
thank you. I'm also a life coach, and I like working with groups and helping individuals to self-connect and live more authentically. So, yes.
Yes. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. I'm excited because we had kind of like a mini preview discussion prior to this, and it got very, 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 very good. But let's just dive straight into the topic, okay? So, Nady, the Within book. Can you tell us a little bit about the book? What inspired you to write the book, and what gave you that drive to finish it?
Yeah, so when COVID happened, even like the introduction of my book actually starts during the COVID period. It was a period where I feel like a lot of us have been gifted time to really just be with ourselves one on one, time that we had been begging for and we had been wanting because of our busy lives and we're never really gotten. And so, like, as much as all the tragedy happened with so many people losing lives and families being separated, which I know a lot of us are still like healing from that. There was also the opportunity for us to go within ourselves and really introspect and figure out our lives and find out who we really were and what moved us and what didn't and what we're doing that was okay for us and what wasn't. And so I took that opportunity to do that for myself. And I went within and I tried to figure out like exactly who I was and what I was supposed to be doing. And I discovered that a lot of who I was influenced by either programming or like trauma, response from trauma, which I feel like a lot of us. I'm African diaspora, immigrated American. So I'm sure a lot of the listeners on this podcast would relate as well. And a lot of my life had been, I think it was influenced by trauma that I hadn't even recognized. So I started my healing journey during COVID, trying to heal from, all the trauma from the past and also trying to find ways to detach from all the programming that had been assigned to me, like, okay, you have to do this, this is who you have to be, you have to live life this way. Instead of asking myself questions like, how do I want to live my life? Like, what are the values and beliefs that I have right now that are actually mine? And what are the values and beliefs that I'm just doing because, or I'm just adopting because they were assigned to me? And then I started like reevaluating that and adopting new ones and assigning new ones to me that were more comparable with who I was as a person. And that's actually where my writing journey started as well. I started journaling because I was always a very intuitive person who loved to reflect on things, but I never really
Yes.
put it down on paper. And so I started doing that. And I also discovered that I loved coaching during that period because it was like something that came very naturally to me. I'd go to work and people would come meet me on my lunch break. I would spend the whole lunch break talking over a problem and figuring out a solution. So I figured
Yes.
it was really something that I actually loved. And that's how I also started my coaching business.
Yeah.
So it
That's so
but
good.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. It took me into going through this past 3 years and finding a way to really highlight how my healing journey went through and how what it went through. And I discovered that it went through four different stages. Detachment, which is very crucial, I believe, to actually build any new habit or assimilate any new thing into your life, you have to detach from the old way of thinking, from the old programming.
Okay.
And then you now start to assign new meaning to it by reawakening and assigning new meaning to it, and what is now more comparable to you. And then you move to actualizing, which is now you're manifesting physically what you want to grow, the new environment or the new, beliefs and values that you want to adopt.
Mm.
And then
Yes.
finally, integration, which is now you now assimilating that into your environment, in your community, in a intentional and conscious way. So I
Yeah.
came up with the term self connection, which I know it's a new term for a lot of people, but self connection is pretty much just living life as authentically as possible and connecting
Yes.
to the environment as independently as possible. But here's the kicker, with conscious intention. Because I know that a lot of people will say, oh, I'm be authentic, so I'm going to do this. But you also have to consider how that's going to impact your community. You have to consider
Yes.
impact your family. You have to consider all that. So the conscious intention, that's where it comes in, and you get
Mm-hmm.
that balance where you're
Mm-hmm.
from yourself authentically, but you're also being mindful of whatever it's creating. And it doesn't
Yes.
matter if it benefits you or not, as long as it's creating growth
Mm-hmm.
you and your environment, that's what the focus is on. It's not on being people pleasing or neglecting yourself and accommodate
Yes.
environment. You consider all of it. So self connection is a beautiful, beautiful practice. I really believe that everybody needs to go tune in, especially as adults, because as children, we don't know. We're told what to do,
We
right?
know. We're a blank slate. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
And I like everything that you're saying, like to be honest though, because like it kind of encompasses some of the BLT approach philosophy that I've been trying to get people to understand. Like you got to be yourself in this world. Like figure out who you are. A lot of people are existing and not living. They're
hmm
just kind of following the same template of society. Go to
hmm
school, go to work, get married, work again, die, all of that kind of stuff. Like it's just kind of like following that same thing. And free will, free will or intentionality or anything like that, it just comes when you wake up and say, hey, let me start driving my own car.
hmm
Let me really start navigating the world the way I really want to with my relationships and everything. Yeah, so I really love all the steps and I'm very excited to, keep diving into it throughout this podcast.
hmm
Yeah. So for it, writing this book, did it bring out anything?
Absolutely. A lot of
Yeah,
the book, actually, I talk about my personal journey in there a lot. So it's kind of like
yeah,
a self memoir as well, in a way, and also
yeah,
like incorporating like all the lessons that I learned. So it's like my story and then the lessons that I learned from it and
yeah,
how that can help other people. I'm hoping and I know that it will probably help a lot of other people. The two main things that stood out to me were the influence of trauma in my life. And then the influence of programming as well. But the influence of trauma was a very particular one because I looked back and even like in my relationship with my husband, and I'm sure a lot of us are struggling with that too. I noticed just how much I was dissociated, even from my children, which is very
yeah.
weird, honestly, because of lack of trust.
Hmm.
Because I was raised in a home where my father left home for the United States when my mom was 3 months pregnant with me. So I never really
Yeah.
got to have a relationship with him. And I
Mhm.
remember craving that relationship so badly, mostly because I'd been told that it was something that everybody had to have. And I
Yeah.
necessary relationship for every child, but
Mhm.
there's some children that just don't happen to have it. And I think it's a situation where if they're trained to understand that if you don't have something, you can still live without it, or you can still find ways to live experiencing it, right? Then you live differently. But I kept searching for that relationship, and I started not trusting people. I remember I was 9 years old. I remember very vividly the day I said that I would not trust people,
Yeah.
because to me, it was like if this person who was supposed to be there for me, was supposed to love me, was supposed to protect me, was
Mhm.
never there or could just leave me, then everybody else in the world could.
Yeah.
So I went into every relationship with one foot in and technically one foot out.
Yes.
Friendships technically, because I was like, well, if they leave, then I don't have to, it wouldn't, I have to
It
protect
won't hurt as much. Yeah.
exactly. But then this is the funny thing, and this is what trauma, the crazy thing that trauma does to you is it also brings you a gift because I was lacking that relationship, it made me want to connect so deeply with every single person that I met.
Yeah.
And that's what led me to being this bubbly, open person that
Yeah.
meet people and just want to go into their lives and just want to feel them. It made me
Yes.
be somebody that felt so deeply because I was searching for connection.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, when I would have the opportunity, I would have one foot out.
Yeah.
Just
Wow. And that's textbook.
yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. It was pretty scary. And like when I recognized that that's what was going on in my life, and a lot of my relationships was, I went in with that mindset and I went in already trying to sabotage them, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I, like it's not gonna work out regardless.
Yeah.
So it puts you in that position, but then it also gave me this beautiful gift. And that's why I really believe that as much as we live through trauma, there's purpose in it. There's purpose in pain. There's purpose in everything we live through.
Mhm.
We just have to see it from that perspective. And it takes a
Yes.
while sometimes to see it from that perspective. Like
It
the
does.
where I
Yeah.
got realized as I got older, and I talk about that in my book, that I actually had father figures in my life. I had so many opportunities to experience fatherhood. So
Mhm.
many. I can't even tell you. But I was so blinded because I kept looking for the one that wasn't there. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it goes back just to say, like if you see what you're searching for, you have to live in acceptance of what, however your life is. I'm not saying don't try. You can try to build, like in my situation or somebody else that has my similar situation. You can attempt to build a relationship with whoever you're missing that relationship with. But if it
Yeah.
doesn't work out, know that you still have the opportunity. There's so many people that you can still experience that with, and that life offers you that.
Yes. And because there's even a more interesting thing about the way trauma works, the types of traumas that people have. So there's this guy, his name is Carl Jung. He came out with a shadow work journal. And
Mm-hmm,
that's what a lot of, shadow work journal is the way to kind of like work and process on the inner child.
mm-hmm,
There are four different types of wounds a person will have based on trauma. There's the trust wound, there's the guilt wound, there's the neglect wound, and then there's the abandonment wound. In the
mm-hmm,
trust wound, a person with a trust wound tends to attract people who don't make them feel safe.
mm-hmm.
That's the irony. It's
Yeah,
like you haven't dealt with the trauma, you already have trust issues, then you then attract somebody who then makes that trust issues come out even more, you
exactly.
know?
Yeah.
Like it is so wild. Like and you look into some of these lists, that's when I try to tell, my clients, I say it is extremely important that you heal because it's not even just because of the type of people you're gonna attract. It's you.
Mm-hmm.
The successes, the chances that you're going to take in life all depends on how much healing and that confidence that comes out. Yeah,
Ex-
yeah,
exactly. Yes, absolutely. And it's funny how like you attract those people because it's almost like you're trying to feed into the trauma response, right? So you
yes,
attract the people that will feed and give it to you. But then at the same time, you're searching for that connection, which
yeah,
is very so it can really mess you up like that. And the thing is, a lot of people live like that without even realizing that they're living like that.
yes,
You know,
yeah,
wonder why all your relationships never work out, and then you're feeding into, oh, okay, yeah, that's because I don't deserve love. I'm a bad. So you keep feeding into it. You never heal from it.
mm-hmm,
You have to acknowledge that, hey, you know what? It's okay. Somebody left me. It was not my fault. I didn't leave me. Why am I
yeah,
paying the price for somebody else's action?
yes,
You have to stand up for yourself in that regard and realize
yeah,
that you're still innately very valuable, regardless of if somebody's there or not. It doesn't change your value. You
yeah,
assign value, you assign meaning to whatever comes into your life. So if the meaning of that person not being there is I'm not worthy, you are assigning that meaning to yourself because you
yes,
are worthy, but you have to
yeah,
do that and heal. And so you can move forward with, better relationships in your life.
Yeah. And to be honest, too, like I look at, trauma, depression, a lot of issues, like the biggest thing it does is it lies to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for instance, if you have a trust wound, you're not only afraid to be hurt, you stop trusting yourself. Like, am I making the right decision?
Mm-hmm.
With this person. You start questioning your reality, which then creates ways where you're looking for ways not to trust the person. You're looking at all the signs like, hey, you know what? I'm going to keep this person at a distance because this, and this, and this is not fully there, and I don't feel safe, which
Mm-hmm.
then makes the person do things that says, aha, this is the reason
Mm-hmm.
why I don't feel safe with you. You know, like for instance, even the abandonment wound, in the book, it talked about how the person with the abandonment wound tends to attract people who are emotionally unavailable.
Exactly.
When I read that I was just like, yeah,
Yes, yes, yes. We do. Because we're feeding that trauma. We're
mhm,
feeding to validate that feeling that we have that we're not enough. So we have
yeah,
to find things to keep it valid, right? Your
yeah,
subconscious is so used to thinking that way, like that's who you are. So you find ways to feed it and keep it alive.
yeah,
But then at
yeah,
the same time, you're struggling to heal from it.
yeah,
It's crazy. It's really really crazy. Like, but it happens, and a lot of us don't even recognize it, and we have to. And once you do, and I'm hoping that, and it's not just with abandonment, right? It's so many other things that people, all other traumas that people are living with. You know,
yes,
it's trauma is trauma, and I know that there are different kinds of trauma, and there's different pathways to healing from different traumas, but the concept is the same: is that we find ways to feed that feeling because we've lived in it for so long.
yes,
Yeah. And
yes,
you have to want to heal for yourself before you
yeah,
move forward from it.
yeah. And even in looking at how it begins to start reflecting in a relationship, you might meet somebody. And then there's that narrative that kind of goes on into like, oh, I don't need a man or I don't need a woman. And every time I hear that from somebody, any of my clients or friends, I'm like, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. One of the basic human needs is to connect. So this whole idea of, okay, someone hurt you once or maybe a couple of times, there's a series of things that are happening based on your self-fulfilling prophecy. Then you
Mm-hmm.
say, I don't need. At that point, you're giving the power
Power.
to the trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right? To just completely block. Because if you build a wall, yes, you're going to be safe from all the bad arrows, but the good arrows are not going to be able to come in either. And so
Exactly.
people are in this constant state of blocking connections
Mm-hmm.
and don't even know, they're not even seeing and say, oh, hey, did I really, really, really need to not pay attention to that person? Or did I really like need to push that person away? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And another way it reflects too is people I call them one chances. So basically, someone hurts you once, a friend of yours hurts you, and then you're going on a blocking spree.
Mm-hmm.
Block, 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 block. Then you meet somebody else who does the same thing. Instead of figuring out, sit down, hey, okay, this is how this affected me. Process that with the individual and try to, move on. You're just
Mm-hmm.
constantly blocking connections.
Yes. And it ties into the theme of like the thesis of my book, which is I feel like we are so disconnected from the world and our environments, not because of the environments. I feel like we are because we're disconnected from ourselves.
Yes,
I really believe that. And that's where self connection comes in. Like, look at in my situation. I was so disconnected from my true self, maybe because of other things like trauma but I was disconnected from myself. So because of that, I couldn't connect with my environment. I couldn't connect with my relationships. I couldn't connect with the people that I was supposed to trust. And that required me to trust them because
yes,
I wasn't connected to myself. And I feel like a lot of us are living life in that situation, trauma or no trauma, right? We're
yeah,
so focused on wanting to be what society says it is, oh, I have to have this kind of job, I have to live this kind of way, I have to have this kind of car, I have to have, and then you're struggling, like, and maybe that's not really even how you want to live life, but because
live. Hmm.
you're trying to meet the standard that society has or your environment has defined as that's what's successful, And that's what the very first chapter of my book, I talk about what is success, because we have to
Yes.
define that for ourselves. Like, what does success really mean to you? It starts with that. Like, okay, like if I were to live a really fulfilling life today, what does that look like? And it may not look like the typical standard expected societal expectations.
Expectation.
It may
Hmm.
look like something completely different, and that's okay. But then
Yeah.
people fear because they're like, oh, I'm gonna feel like a left out, like a cast out. I'm gonna
Hmm.
feel left out. Like how are the people gonna look at me? Like, how am I gonna survive? Everybody's doing it this way. If I do it this way, am I gonna be able to do it? You have to learn that there's a reason why that's what's calling you. That's
Yes.
how you're supposed to live your life. You have to trust. You
Yeah.
absolutely have to trust that I'm living my life for me first so that I can
Yes.
be a better person to my environment.
Yeah.
And I believe that a lot of people are struggling with that, especially, I'm sorry, our African community, we're struggling with that.
Oh yeah. It's big. It's so big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're struggling with that a lot. We're trying to meet this some standard that we cannot even like sustain.
Yeah. And the thing about it too, like, so I'm seeing a lot of, going into our community, I'm seeing a lot of posts lately. They're saying things like, oh, the most successful Black population in the United States are Nigerians, right? And there's a lot of more, like, there's a recognition to like how Nigerians kind of like move into that state of success. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, I've been looking at it a lot, and I'm like, I think that drive towards success is a trauma response, right? It is a need to feel seen and a need to feel appreciated by the things that are done based on societal's expectations.
Bingo.
If you look at the way the average Nigerian or African parent raises their child, it is if you don't get good grades, don't be here, don't be around. To be
Exactly.
seen, to be seen, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I
To be
remember
acknowledged.
one of the things I used to hear all the time was, if I got a B and my classmate got an A, my parents would say things like, does that person have two heads? You
Exactly.
know? So it's
Exactly.
already creating that narrative. It's already
Mhm.
creating that narrative that, okay, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're supposed to just be a success-driven vampire. And then it creates this, you're on autopilot. You're not,
Exactly.
yes, you're just moving, like, and you're not even figuring out, why am I even moving this way?
Exactly.
Um, yeah, so there was a pyramid, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And realizing that like the idea of success is not necessarily money
Mm-mm.
or self-actualization. That's
Bingo.
the top, that's on the top of the pyramid.
Bingo.
Self-actualization. Because
Yeah.
there are billionaires who right there who did not necessarily feel fulfillment in what they were doing, who
Hmm.
then woke up one morning and said, hey, you know what? I want to get into philanthropy. I want to start focusing on this cause and diving deep into this particular cause because the money was not enough.
Exactly. Money's
Yeah.
never I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. Money's never enough.
Hmm.
Fulfillment is enough.
Hmm.
And that's what you go for. Like, and that's why self-actualization is the top of the hierarchy of the pyramid, because you actually come to fulfill why you're here. You feel meaningful when you're living life according to like why you feel like you came to this world. And it's
Yes.
important. And the other reason why I think a lot of times we end up being robots. It's also because of those values and those beliefs, right? You're supposed to get
Mhm.
A's, all A's. You're supposed to be a good child.
Yes.
You're not supposed to. There's certain things that you cannot do. You
Hmm.
you know you can't get pregnant before you get married. You can't
Married. Hmm.
which they're good directions, right? Because it helps
Yeah.
with stability. Don't get me wrong. And I talk about that actually in my journey, how like
Mhm.
the first time I actually started questioning belonging, what belonging really meant to me in chapter 8 of my book, with when I got pregnant with my daughter
Yeah.
in college. And it was a turmoil, let me tell you, because I
Yeah.
lived for 7 months. My family didn't even know I was pregnant because I lived in fear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't even know how I'm gonna tell them I'm pregnant. So you can
Yeah.
imagine what all that is doing to my psychology and also my baby.
Hmm.
So my and
Like,
my daughter ended up struggling a lot as a child. And I really believe, and I put in studies in there that actually show how, you know, the status of the mother, the state of a mother can significantly influence a baby even in utero. And
Yes.
she had a lot of like psych issues because of, and I believe it started from there. Because I
Yes.
myself had, I was very dissociated when I was pregnant with her because
Mhm.
I was living through trying to even accept, like, trying to redefine what belonging meant. Like, okay, I'm pregnant with this child. My community is not going to accept me, but
Definitely,
I can,
yes.
but then that's when I started redefining, okay, but I can find a new community that is more suited to who I'm becoming now as a person.
Hmm.
Find a new community that's more accepting of my situation because this is my life. And
Yes.
whether I like it or not, I'm having this child and I have to be the best. I have to try to be the best parent that I can be. And this is going to be my life, whether people accept it or not. I have to accept it.
Yeah.
And so I have to find environments that are supportive of it, of my circumstance. And
Yes.
and I feel like we need to, we like as Africans and just even as people as general, like we've been assigned all these beliefs and all these values. We have to start, redefining them for ourselves. That's the only way you actualize.
We
That's
do.
the only way you shift from life is happening to me into life is happening for me.
For me.
That's the only way
Yes.
you do that. That's the only way you start changing the narrative. Like, okay, I'm pregnant out of wedlock, but a child is also a gift.
It's yeah, a child is always a gift.
It's also a
Yeah.
gift, and that's what needs to be the focus. The focus shouldn't be on, okay, I'm disgracing my family. The focus should be on, I'm bringing a gift into this world, and now
Yeah.
I'm responsible for it.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that my life is done just because I'm having a
It,
baby. I can still
yeah.
go to school, which I still did. I took her to class with me. I was in college. I took her to class with me. You know,
Determination. Yeah.
exactly. So it's just your life can still be what it is. Just because they've made you believe that life is going to be a certain way. And our parents only gave us what they knew.
Yes.
And the truth is that the reason why I believe that our parents try to push us to be more than what they are is because they themselves realize that they were also living in that state. So
Yes.
each generation, there's even more zeal to free the next. I really,
Hmm.
you can look at, even with your children, I'm sure there's certain, the way you were raised and the restrictions and confines that you lived in, you're trying to not have your kids live through the same situation.
Same thing. Yes.
you know
Yes.
so
Yes.
yeah.
I like that. And again, pandemic woke a lot of people up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of them. And I remember the narrative of, during that time on social media was, if it didn't feel good in childhood, don't do it to your kids.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you feel like, okay, hey, I eventually became successful. If it didn't feel good, it did not feel good. Because
Mm-hmm.
and it was a lot of those conversations were geared towards our community in a sense of like, okay, a lot of people will say things like, oh, I got beaten, and I turned out good.
Exactly.
But did
But
you
that's
like it?
bingo.
Like, what did that do to you? Yeah.
Exactly, exactly,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because you turned out good, it was probably also because of a lot of compensation. A lot
Hmm.
of you had to compensate so much. And trust me, you're probably not even healed from that trauma of being beat up every day. You've
Hmm.
probably just pushed it aside somewhere so you could
Yeah.
survive. It was like a survival mechanism in a
Yeah.
way. So you had to push it somewhere to actually validate it, like, oh, you know what, it and yeah, it had a purpose because maybe it shaped you, but it was not necessary. We can do it
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
We can always do it better. Like,
Yeah.
better rod and spoil the child, that whole concept to me is like, no.
I don't want to say there's so many parts of the Bible that we saw as metaphors, but decided to take this one particular one as like literally. Like
Mm-hmm.
rod could mean anything. Rod could mean discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And discipline is there's several different other ways to discipline. But we say, oh, okay, hey, let's take this one. This means real rod.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of things, and I've worked with a lot of populations who have suffered like severe, severe physical abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I've seen also, growing up boarding school.
Mm-hmm.
And the physiological things that does to a person over time is extreme. And
Mm-hmm.
so what people are not realizing that they're chasing is they're chasing not feeling that pain.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Mm-hmm.
that need to be perfect because if you're not perfect, it's going to equal to some type of pain. And so you just, autopilot. And when emotions are not involved in a lot of things, yeah, it goes south.
And the more I think about it, this is how I look at it. To me, I feel like the reason why our parents even did all that, like so much of the physical, corrective action, I think it's because they themselves had unhealed stuff in them. And that was their own way of like releasing it. But
Yes.
unfortunately, they're releasing it on their children,
Hmm.
and it's really unfortunate because I really believe it came from their own trauma,
Oh yeah.
you
It's
know,
trauma is learned.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
learned. So like that was their own way of releasing it, but then you're releasing it on your children. So that's why it's so critical that as parents we have to heal ourselves so that we
Yeah.
can be better parents to our children. Like it's so important. There's other ways to correct the child. You can have a conversation. You can, there's so many other ways, but you have to heal yourself to be able to understand that that's not even the practical way to raise a child. You,
Yes.
and self-healing is so, so, so important.
Yeah.
And obviously our African community is I'm hopeful and I'm grateful that we're starting to really accept that mental health is a big deal.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Because
Oh yes.
that's another topic that we've
Oh
had
yes.
to deal with for
Oh yeah.
so long. Whereas like mental health is just it was never recognized as, oh, what is therapy? What is,
Hmm.
as we know that, but it's hard for our parents,
Yeah.
to understand that. And so like our children and now like saying, hey, mom, dad, I think I need therapy. I think we need to go to therapy, you know
Yes.
which is a good thing. And I'm encouraging anybody out there, if your teenager ever comes and tells you that, hey, we need to go to
Go to
therapy,
therapy. Do
like
it.
my daughter did with me, go.
Yeah.
Like it's necessary for their mental health and for yours too. You may not even
Mhm.
realize it. It's also going to help you revisit some of those childhood traumas and that you've been living through, and help heal you so you can be better with yourself and then with your
Yeah.
children too. So
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody who does not feel like they're deserving of love or
first,
healing?
the reason why you're feeling like you're not deserving of love is because somebody has made you feel like you're not deserving of love. It's not innately coming from you because you were born with love. Everybody is born deserving love. Everybody is born deserving connection. Connection is why we exist, right?
Yes.
And it's unfortunate that a lot of us end up in environments that we don't get the love that we deserve, but it doesn't change the fact that you deserve to be loved. Just because somebody doesn't love you doesn't change the fact that you do not deserve love. And the first person that actually should give you love is you. And I know it's hard when you're
Hmm.
already that mindset that, oh, somebody doesn't love me, I don't deserve love. That's where the reframing comes in. You have
Yes.
that if you have to love yourself above anybody else. Self-love is the source of all love.
All love.
Because
All
if
of it.
you love yourself, you cannot give what you don't have.
Hmm.
You cannot give people what you don't. And those people that are not giving it to you is because maybe it's because they don't even love themselves like that.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the reason why they can't give it to you.
Hmm.
So you have to start with yourself. Understand that you are always deserving of love, and the first person to give it to is yourself.
Hmm.
So work
Yeah.
on that. Work in understanding that you are dual for a reason.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. You have your
Hmm.
good sides and you have your bad sides, but you cannot shame yourself for being either or. What is important is you have to grow from either or.
Yeah. Or yes.
Come to grow you. The bad things, the good things, all of that comes to grow you. And the more you grow and the more you self connect and the more you love yourself more because you trust yourself more. So
Hmm.
it goes down to self love at the end of the day. You are so deserving of love. It doesn't have to come from without, it needs to come from within.
Within. Yes. The self-love is that number one tool that will make you not put yourself in the same trauma you're trying to run away from.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And and
yeah,
will and will make you also probably treat other people the way you're trying not to be treated.
yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
And so opposite of self-awareness is self-sabotage, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and self-sabotage happens when you either consciously and unconsciously create situations to justify how you feel within.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the reasons why I like the concept of your book.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who will find themselves in a very, very, very good situation.
Mm-hmm.
And because of trauma, self-sabotage by, pushing the person away, cheating, whatever the case may be, because it's just like, hey, I need to figure out a way to replicate the same chaos
Mm-hmm.
that I'm used to. And again, kind of like what you just said right now, self-love is the
Mm-hmm.
only way to push that off. Yeah.
It's the way. It's the only way because let me tell you, I self-sabotage so many of my relationships like
Mhm.
over and over and over and over because I
Yeah.
was into, oh, I was looking for my father in all these people, you know.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
I talk about it in my book. I was every single one of them. I was looking for him in them. I was looking for the love that I wanted from them, and I was also looking at whatever they did that would make me feel like okay, they're him.
Yeah.
They're gonna leave me at some point. I
Yeah.
was for both, you know,
Yeah.
because I didn't feel like I was deserving of that love. So that's where the self-sabotaging comes in, where I keep finding ways to create situations where I don't get what I actually even want.
Yeah. And in that particular situation, I heard people say something like, "Hey, I was looking for something, but I didn't even know what I was looking for because I didn't have it."
Exactly.
You understand? So I was just kind of experimenting, like, "Oh, hey, this is what I wanted. Nah, I don't want this." Or actually, this feels good, but this feels too good. Stay away.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And what you're looking for is right there. It's right there
Hmm.
in front of you, but you don't see it. Or if you see it, you don't believe it
Yeah.
because your mind is not ready to receive it. And the
Hmm.
only way to receive it, you have to heal to be able to recognize that you're deserving of that love. You're deserving to receive it. And you heal and give it to yourself. And then it opens up room for other people to give it to you.
Hmm. So in summary from what you're saying is for you to be yourself, you need to believe in yourself. You need to believe that you're capable of getting the things that you feel deserving of.
We all are. We
Yeah.
all are, Dr. Tammy. We
Hmm.
all are. Like we all come to this world with a purpose. We all live life on purpose. We all have something to contribute. We all do. And that's when you go through all those three stages, the first three stages, reawakening, detachment, reawakening, actualization, and then you start integrating. You recognize that you are valuable. You are valuable in whatever connection you're in, whatever relationship you're in, whatever community you're in. You have something to give.
Yeah.
You
It's
have that's
something again.
a true synergy because you
Hmm.
give the world who you are, not what the world thinks you should be or how you should give yourself. And the world
Yes.
receives you as who you are. And this beautiful synergy because you live life truly authentic and you give your community what they really deserve from you. Because
Yes.
the world needs you. It doesn't need a version of you that you think they need.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow, good stuff, good stuff. So your book, like so you said it's coming out in February. Where can people buy, pre-order, anything like that?
Okay, so next week there's going to be the opportunity to pre-order the ebook on
Yeah,
Amazon. But that's
yeah,
the thing with pre-orders, you still have to wait to the launch date to get it, but you can pre-order just the ebook. Amazon
yeah,
doesn't allow you to pre-order the paperback. But
yes.
February 11th,
Ooh,
the book will be available on all platforms. Amazon, bookstores, online. And I also have copies because the reason why we're doing that is because I'm so thankful to my pre-sale backers, by the way, which you being one of them, because
yeah,
the book made it all the way. And I'm actually receiving the copies for the pre-sale backers next week, and I'll ship them out. So that gives them the opportunity to be able to read it first. That's the
yeah.
honor, and I
Wow.
appreciate them. They get to read it
Karen.
first. That's why the launch is all the way in February. But I'll still
Yeah,
have copies with me. I'll have like about 100 extra copies. So if you're interested in purchasing the book, and I'll find a way to create a link or something where I can ship it to you if you buy it directly from me, or if you live in the DFW area, I'll have a way that I can get it to you as well,
yeah.
physically. Yes, but the launch is officially February 11th. Yes,
February 11th.
February 11th.
Everyone mark your date. Yeah. And
Yes, just in
so
time for my
February,
day.
just in time, just
Because
in
self
time.
love is the source of all love.
All love.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about your Instagram, social media? How can people get in touch with coaching sessions with you? Because you do coaching too as well, right?
Yes.
And wellness workshops.
Yes, I
Yeah.
do. So my Instagram is at within. That's just the word within. But I have the what do they call it? The hyperspace underneath it.
Yeah.
Um, because the word just within was taken. But anyways, if you type within, you find me. Antoinette Njombua-Fombad is linked to my name. My Facebook is also my Facebook is just my name, Antoinette Njombua-Fombad. My LinkedIn is my name as well, Antoinette Njombua-Fombad. And my website is heal, like HEAL, love, LOVE, and grow, GROW, healloveandgrow.com. And
Wow.
yes, because that's when I started my coaching business, that was my process, healing, loving, and growing,
Growing.
which it's funny how that took off and ended up with the book, Everything is Within. So, but I'm also going to have a website for the book as well. And everything about the book will be linked to that website. I plan on doing webinars, like a book club webinar for the book,
Yeah.
starting after the launch, like one chapter every 2 weeks, so we can really dive deep and go into each chapter as well. And I do one-on-one sessions as well. You can book it through, my website, or you can contact me directly through my email, which is on my website, or on my socials. You can always also DM me in any one of my socials. I'm more than happy to do that. And I do WhatsApp calls too as well. So I plan on also doing workshops in the future. I'm looking forward to collaborating with whoever is out there, because mental health is so key, especially during this
Oh
time.
yes. Oh
And
yes.
like that's why I love what you do so much, because advocating for mental health is something that I believe everybody should. And I see it's a lifelong passion of mine. It's obviously
Yeah.
yours as well.
Mm-hmm.
Open to
For sure.
collaborating with any avenues or any, like, media outlets, or, book clubs that are willing to discuss my book and how that can help communities.
Yes, yes. Like guys, just reach out. If you live in the DFW area, follow Nettie, like, and there's a lot of insightful posts, you're gonna get from Instagram. Just, I mean, it's like a lot, just to think about because, life is about planting seeds.
Hmm.
And what we do is really plant seeds so people can allow that to grow. So check out heal, love, and grow, and you can get into everything that we talked about today. And so for everybody, stay blessed. Thank you for listening, and watch out for the next episode of Mental Health Savage.
Thank you, Dr. Tammy. Have a great
All right.
afternoon.
Thank you.